Hi, Isaac.
Hi.
It's a great honor to have you here. And you are an example for, I think, everybody. And let's start with the sentence you spoke about Helen Keller.
Sure.
It's what was it?
Well, worse than being blind is having sight but no vision, and I really think that that's true. I lost my sight, and I spent a lot of time worrying about blindness and thinking that it was going to be an awful fate for me. But really, blindness gave me vision, and I think it was a great trade. Um, so
You think it was a great trade?
yeah, I wouldn't go back. The insights that I gained, the lessons that I learned in the process in which I went by which I went blind, it's brought me such wonderful, empowering insights into the way I want to live my life, and it's brought me such fulfillment and joy and success. And so I don't regret any aspect of my life. It's been wonderful.
And you just said you were proudly Jewish. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing?
Sure. So my both of my parents hail from Ashkenazi Jewish families. Interestingly, they wound up in Cuba, escaping religious persecution. So both of my parents were born and raised in Cuba, which makes us, they call us Jubans, Cuban Jews. So it was fun. So I grew up in Miami, Florida, in the Cuban Jewish community, which is a very tight knit community. Pretty much all the Jubans know each other down there, and it was a really cool blending of two different cultures. It was very special for me.
And what did your upbringing, Jewish upbringing, give you?
For me, Judaism as a system of cultural values, as a way to try to live your life deliberately and with purpose, and with accountability for your character and for what you want to leave behind. I think that jives very well. It's very consistent with a lot of the principles and things that I like to think about in terms of sort of my philosophy on life, if that makes any sense.
Of course. What do you see that we don't see?
What do I see that you don't see? I guess I see that the reality that we experience, the way that we sort of perceive the world around us, can be pretty misleading. We have this sort of natural tendency, this default understanding that sort of things are happening out there and they're sort of beyond our control, and sort of how they manifest themselves in our lives and in our experience is sort of beyond our control. In actuality, we just have this immense power, literally in every moment, to choose who we want to be and how we want to live our lives, and how we want to connect with others and relate to others, what we want our legacy to be at home and at work. And it's not easy. It takes work and effort and practice, but I certainly think living a life of purpose is an endeavor worth doing.
You are also an entrepreneur,
Yes.
and you are a businessman.
Yep.
And how do you do that?
I'd like to think I do it as just as anyone else would. I've been blessed to have several different businesses along the way. Some in advertising technology and construction services, and a couple others along the way. But I definitely have the entrepreneurial spirit. Every 3-4 years, 4 or 5 years, I like to find a new big challenge and try to find the right group of people who can come together and inspire each other to make it happen. So I like to build new businesses.
You say you talk about legacy. What would you like your legacy to be?
You know, uh, in ways that are hard to put into words, I live for my children. I do. I'm so obsessed with them, and I admire them so much. And so my legacy for me, if I can help impart upon my children some of the philosophy, some of the vision that I've sort of generated for myself, and if they can, in some small way, derive some of the joy and fulfillment that I've been so blessed to have, man, that's all I want in life, is for my children to be happy.
What did you discover when you had the problem of blindness?
I was diagnosed when I was 13, before I even had any symptoms. So I was told at 13 that I would progressively lose my sight and go blind, and that there were no treatments, no cures, and nobody really knew how long it would take. and basically, good luck. You know, at first, I was terrified. I thought that blindness was going to ruin my life. I thought it was going to be, a death sentence for my independence. And I had all these awful preconceptions about blindness. But then I was able to see that those fears, that awful sort of reality I envisioned for myself, was really just fiction, was lies, was born of my fear. And if I sort of saw very clearly that if I wanted to make a choice to live a very different life, I could. And so, with the help of a lot of great people around me, blessedly, I was able to see, again, I will choose who I want to be and how I want to live my life. And whether I can see or not has no bearing on that choice that I have to make.
Lately, there are polls that say that 1 of 4 persons are depressed. And what would you tell them?
It's interesting. It relates to what I want to talk about here today at the City of Ideas. My talk is sort of largely about that. I think that for all sorts of reasons, we can leave aside, as a society, as a people, we're losing our humanity a little bit. I think we're losing our humanity. I think we're losing the ability to empathize. We're losing the ability to reason a bit, and I'm a little worried about us all. So I'm disappointed to hear that statistic, but I'm not surprised because I think there's unfortunately a lot of misdirected anger and frustration and fear out there in the world today, and that's a real shame.
We are losing our humanity and our way to reason.
I think so. I think we're getting worse and worse at it. I mean, so it's one of the things I'll talk about in the talk today. But if you look at statistics, for example, a recent Forbes piece on how prevalent it is now for folks to report that they operate in a mindless state. They make decisions on autopilot throughout the day, right? So that's not even trying to think. And then you look at this massive increase in the amount of information we take in, right? We get something like 5 times more information in any given day now than we did in the mid-1980s, for example. Yet when it comes to learning, we don't learn anymore. So we literally take in, on any given day, 174 newspapers worth of information. But when it comes to knowledge and wisdom, we're not doing any better than 1986. You put those ideas together, and to me it seems there's an argument that we are less willing to try to think. And when we do think, we're getting worse at it. And to me, those things directly implicate the very core of our humanity, of what it means for us to be human, of what it means for us to live and work together. And so I'm somewhat sort of sad and disappointed about the state of the world today, quite frankly, but I'm also very hopeful. And I'm excited to be here to share more about that.
Well, you do see more than us. And my one question I'm asking everybody is, what is your burning question and what is the answer?
What is my burning question and what is the answer? Man, what is my burning question? I don't know that I have a burning question. I mean, for me, my burning question every day is really how are my children faring, and what does their day look like, and where's their mind at? That's sort of top of my list every day.
And the answer?
Man, my kids are awesome. They're doing great. I have 8-year-old triplets and a 3-year-old, and so it's very busy and crazy in my house. But they're 4 remarkable and special people that I'm very proud of, and I feel very blessed to be able to be their dad.
And what is your advice for parents?
So my advice for parents, I'm not at all the first to say it, and I'm sure I'm not going to put it best, but we can tell our children whatever we want to tell them. They follow our example. They're always watching. They're always learning. And we teach them with our example. For me, with the birth of the triplets, this notion of being accountable to myself for how I'm living my life, that just went to a whole nother level. Because again, they're watching. And so I I try very hard to live my life to emulate the values and the principles and sort of the the attitude of grace and gratitude. I try to emulate that for my kids. I think my advice to parents would be pay more attention to what you're doing around your kids than what you're saying around your kids. No, me encanta hablar español. Como le dijo, mis padres son cubanos y me enseñaron cómo hablar español cuando yo era joven. La verdad no tenía muchas oportunidades practicar mi español entre los años, pero ahora, hace como 5 o 10 años, yo tengo un negocio en Florida y muchos de nuestros empleados hablan español, entonces me encanta porque tengo oportunidad de practicar y me encanta la lengua.
Entonces vinieron de Cuba.
Mis padres, sí. Mis padres nacieron en Cuba.
¿Y cómo fue esta aventura para ti?
Bueno, ellos mudaron a Miami antes que yo nació, entonces yo creció en Miami, pero como le digo, una comunidad de cubanos judíos, una comunidad muy, ¿cómo se dice?, fuerte y unida. Y fue algo muy, no sé si se dice bonito, creciendo, estar en esa comunidad. Me gustó mucho.
Muchas gracias.